Good day, guys. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we'll go through a few examples under the chapter of algebra, and the topic is division by a binomial. So, we have the first example here, uh, which says find the quotient and a remainder by dividing 2x to the power of 3 minus 3x to the power of 2 plus 3x minus 10 by x minus 2. So for this one, guys, we are going to use two methods. We are going to use a long and a short methods. A short method. So what I'm trying to mean is we are going to use both methods. So to see how far we'll go with this question. Okay. So as we continue, we first apply a square root symbol. Okay. Now when we are done, we now bring this expression here. We now bring this expression inside the square root. Okay, 2x to the power of 3 minus 3x to the power of 2 plus 3x minus 10. When we are done, we now bring that x minus 2 here, x minus 2, and then put it in bracket. Okay, now when we are done, before we continue, we have to make sure that the terms of variables are in descending order. But in this case, we can see that these terms are already in descending order, or are already put in descending order. So to start, we now divide 2x to the power of 3 by the first term in the bracket. Okay, so 2x to the power of 3 divided to x, the answer that we get, we write it on top here. So what is the answer? Is 2x to the power of 2. Okay, so guys, this, I know some of you you don't understand how we got 2x to the power of 2. So in other ways, we can say 2x to the power of 3 divided to x, because we are dividing here, we are by this by the first term in the bracket. So in other words, we can say 2x to the power of 3 divided to x. Okay, now let me take you back to the laws of indices, whereby when there is a division sign, you subtract the powers. Okay, and we know exactly that there is a 1 there. So to subtract the powers, we say 2x to the power of 3 minus a 1. The answer is 2x to the power of 2. Okay, that is the answer that we got then. Now when we are done, we multiply that 2x to the power of 2, or that answer that we got on top there, by each term in the bracket. Okay, so 2x to the power of 2 divided to x, the answer is 2x to the power of 3. Okay, in other words, guys, is 2x to the power of 2 by each term in the bracket. That is what I'm trying to mean here. Okay, we now multiply this 2x to the power of 2 again by a negative 2 in a bracket. The answer is negative 4x to the power of 2. Okay, now when we are done, we now put a division line and then subtract the terms. Okay, now as we continue, we now subtract the terms. So 2x to the power of 3 minus this 2x to the power of 3, the answer is 0. So we move on to these terms here, this one and this one. So negative 3x to the power of 2 minus a negative 4x to the power of 2, the answer is x to the power of 2. Now when we are done, we now bring down the following term as it is down here, and connect it to x to the power of 2. So we bring down this 3x and then we add it here. Okay, as I've said, you just bring it down as it is here. Okay, is a positive 3x, you bring it down as it is here. And now when we are done, we repeat the same process as we have done in the first place. Okay, we divide this by the first term in the bracket. So x to the power of 2 divided to x, the answer is x, and the answer that we get, we write it on top here, okay, is positive x. Now we divide this x by each term in the bracket. So x by x, the answer is x to the power of 2. We write it under here, x to the power of 2. We again multiply that x by a negative 2 in the bracket. The answer is a negative 2x. We put a division line and then subtract the terms, okay. Now x to the power of 2 minus x to the power of 2, we know it's a 0. So we move on to this one. 3x minus negative 2x, the answer is 5x, okay. Now when we are done, we now bring the following term down here and then connect it to this term. So it's a negative 10. As I've said in the first place, you bring it down as it is here. It's a negative 10. So you bring it down here and connect it to this one, okay. As we continue, we now divide 5x by the first term there, x. So 5x divided to x, the answer is 5. We write it on top here, is a 5. We now multiply this 5 by each term in the bracket. So 5 by x, the answer is 5x. We write it here, 5x. And then we then multiply it again by this negative 2 here. So 5 by a negative 2, the answer is a negative 10. We bring it down here. We put a division line and then subtract the terms, okay. Now 5x minus 5x is a 0. And then a negative 10 minus a negative 10 is also a 0. So for the long division, we have come to an end. So the answer that we got on top there is our quotient, and the answer that we got at the end is our remainder, okay. Now the quotient is 2x to the power of 2 plus x plus 5, and then our remainder is a 0. So guys, we don't forget that we used a long method here. It's a long method, okay. Now let's try a short method. Okay, let's try a short method. For a short method, let's first let us consider this x minus 2 as a divider. We have to make it equals to 0. In other words, always put it equals to 0. So it's equals to 0, okay. Because we are trying to find the value of x, that's why we put it equals to 0. So x is equals to positive 2. It's a positive 2 because this negative 2 moved across the equal sign and it became a positive. That's why it's a positive 2, okay. Now for this one, we apply for the short method, we apply this symbol, okay. We apply this symbol. Now when we are done, we write the coefficients of all the terms in descending order, okay. We now write the coefficients of all the terms in descending order. So the coefficients, we have 2, a negative 3, positive 3, and then a minus 10. We write them here, okay. We have 2, negative 3, 3, and then a negative 10 there, okay. Now when we are done, as we continue, we now bring this the value of x, we write it here, okay. So now when we are done, the first thing that you do is to bring down the first term, which is a 2. We bring it down here and then multiply this by the value of x, which is 2 there. The answer that you get, you write it under here and then under a negative 3 and then add the column, okay. So 2 by 2, the answer is 4. So we write it under a negative 3 and then add the column. So negative 3 plus 4, the answer is 1. We write it here. we then again multiply this one by that 2 there. So 1 by 2, the answer is 2. We then bring it under this 3, and then add the column as well. So 3 plus 2, the answer is 5. So we then again multiply this 5 by that 2 there. So 5 by 2, the answer is 10. And then we write it under a negative 10. What do we do next? We now add the column. So a negative 10 plus 10, the answer is 0. Okay. So you just repeat the process as we have did. Okay. You only bring the first term down here and then multiply it to that 2. The answer that you get, you write it under here, under this negative 3, and then you add the column. Just repeat the same process, just like that. Now when we are done, we now put in the variables. Indices must be 1 digit less than the original. Okay, these indices must be 1 digit less than the original. Okay, so for these two, we are going to say 2x to the power of 2. Why? Because here it was 2, the power was 3. So I said we put in the variables whereby the indices must be 1 digit less than the original. So this 3 is reduced to 2. That's why it's 2x to the power of 2. And then we move on to 1. Okay, I go to 1. Then it was a 2, the power was a 2, so now we reduce it to we reduce it. Okay, so this one becomes an x. Why? Because we have a 1 here, that means there's a x. Okay, so there's no need to write 1x, we'll just write x. We move on to 5. So this 5, we just write 5 as it is, because we are reducing the indices. In other ways, the indices must be 1 digit less than the original. Okay, so for this 0, we don't add it here because that one is the answer that we got at the end, and it must be our remainder. So in this case, this is our quotient, and then our remainder is that 0 that we got at the end. So this is a short method. It's a short method. Okay, so let us now compare. Here we used a long method and a short method. In the first place, before we started, I said we are going to use two methods. So here we've used a long method, and here we used a short method, and we can clearly see that the answers that we got when we used a long method is same as the answers that we just got when we used a short method. So it's up to you whether you go for a long method or a short method. So this is what we have for a long method and a short method. I thank you very much. Have a good day.